I tell you, sometimes watching myself try and figure out when this live stream is actually streaming is kind of silly. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to WineShark Wednesdays. It is I, your host, the WineShark, here to help you celebrate a wonderful beginning to a holiday wine season. Hope everybody had an excellent holiday for those of you that celebrate here in the States. Mine was excellent and busy and lazy at the same time. It was lazy on the wonderful laying about with family, busy on cooking and other kinds of things, and a lot of fun wine things up to and including the holiday itself. So, in thinking about that over the course of the show, or thinking about the show's content rather over the course of the break, one of the things I wanted to do was kind of share out some holiday themed stuff that will be going through the next month, kind of get myself some content ready and some topics lined up. And well, the holiday theme seems to be appropriate. And so we're going to be reviewing two things. One, holiday recipes. So something that I do a lot, of course, is wine and food pairing. Therefore, I'm going to share some of the recipes that are going into my current WineShark winter offerings. So, or well, technically end of fall offerings, but the holiday season's upon us, and I've got some excellent food that can be definitely part of your own table for one of our private events, but also sharing so you can try some of these things out on your own, including wine pairing suggestions. Then, of course, the grocery store grab. We're going to be theming the grocery store grab to holiday appropriateness as well. And in a revisit of last year's request, I will be working on, and I'm already a day late, the Advent calendar for 2021. So hopefully I should have that out tomorrow. You'll only be a day behind. And, you know, if everybody needs to have 2 bottles of wine on a Thursday, I completely understand. So I hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to get going here and talking just a little bit. We're going to talk about a couple of things today, but we're going to be pouring and drinking some excellent Beaujolais Nouveau. It is that time of year, ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite little easy drinking gateway drug wines for many, many people. We're going to talk about this wonderful grocery store grab that was a Beaujolais Nouveau. So, food, holidays, themes. What does that really mean is a question I've been thinking about, right? When we talk about the holidays, I tend to think, of course, things from my own holiday experience, and I think about wines that go well with the various foods that we tend to have regarding either parties, celebrations, or feasting. Thanksgiving, of course, is one. Then there's Christmas holiday. I realize that there is other people have very different traditions as far as dining when it comes to these sorts of holidays. So it's a very broad expanse. It really, for lack of a better term, it didn't help narrow it down. So understand that when I'm approaching this, I'm definitely approaching it from my own experience and kind of traditional Western American kind of cuisine perspective. So that caveat granted. The other thing that we're going to be talking about when it comes to holiday wines is simply stuff for friendliness across the concept of celebrating. A lot of you are going to be going to various holiday parties, whether they be for work or personal or family oriented, which they may simply be a celebration / cocktail party, something where you're not necessarily sitting down to a dinner or a meal. Or you may be so awesome as to be hosting one of these yourself. So of course, hosting that kind of event is something that will influence how you make wine selections. And so we'll be talking probably in the next couple of weeks about wine friendliness, and we've kind of covered this topic, but it's been a while. And that idea of how do I, for the least number of bottles, and when we're doing entertaining, what do I need to plan for? I get questions like this from guests and students all the time, where they're asking about what they should do to plan for their party. How do I make the right decisions, especially if they're not particularly experienced in the world of wine? It's a great little helper to be able to say, hey, here's how you cover your bases with some, as Alton Brown would call them, multitaskers. So today, though, I wanted to talk about a new salad that I started playing around with for the fall wine menu, and it is just amazing. But most importantly, it's the question of, wait a minute, salad? We're going to start with salad as far as our holiday is concerned? Well, yeah, actually, because holiday flavors kind of come in all shapes and sizes, but when I think of end of harvest and those sorts of flavors, a lot of things come to mind, but one of them, when we kind of talk about proteins, is, I think, a little bit underrated, and that is duck. Not a lot of us are familiar with and don't have duck on a regular basis, but smoked duck is usually pretty easily available, at most good delis and kind of say butcher's counters. So the way that I collect recipes involves going through my emails that I get from places like Food and Wine Magazine and various other sources that will come in and give me, hey, here's 10 great recipes for chicken thighs, and I usually will save those and I kind of peruse through them, catch things that catch my eyes, get stuck in my bookmarks folder, and I organize them by what course they're used for, whether they're sides, whether they're salads, whether they're main courses, and then I segregate them into seafood versus poultry versus whatever. Well, anyway, I bookmark a lot more than I use, obviously, because I'm getting 4 or 5 emails a week and looking over anywhere from 20 to 50 different recipes. Well, that being said, some things finally burble up to the top when it comes to the appropriate season or the appropriate opportunity. And what we're going to focus on this week is a smoked duck salad with walnuts and raspberries. Yes, it is a fantastic combination of smoky and bitter and sweet and sour that I found to be just remarkable. So I'm going to walk you through what the basic recipe is, and then I'll talk to you a little bit on Patreon. I'm going to actually publish my version of this finalized, the final version that I used of this particular recipe, because there are some lessons learned that go along there that I'll definitely share with all my Patreon members, because A, I haven't been able to talk to you in a while because I've been so busy, and B, I feel like I've left you out of the loop. So I will give you guys some fun things. So every week this month, we're going to be working on recipes. Patreon members are going to get full access to the entire recipe themselves and my own personal twists on how these things work, some of my lessons learned. Because, well, let's just admit it, every good person in the kitchen starts to play around with recipes usually after the first time they make them. I usually have a general rule that I make it by the book the first time, and then after that, it's kind of up on your own. So, what are the components of this? The basic components are kind of in the title. There's not any fun name really that goes along with this. But smoked duck salad with walnuts and raspberries. So this is smoked duck that you take and you slice very thin, and then you crisp it in the oven or in a frying pan to make it effectively kind of like duck bacon. It comes out as a nice, crispy, smoky flavor. We add to that a combination where we're tying together flavors between roasted walnuts that are scattered on the salad and a walnut-based or walnut oil-based dressing called frisée. And so the frisée is basically a Dijon mustard combination of Dijon mustard, walnut oil, and some shallots to make a kind of tangy, bitter dressing. And it's very, very thin. It's not very thin. It's actually kind of thick. You use it, and you have to make sure that you take the lettuce from the salad and toss it within, basically chop it up and then toss it all together very kind of lightly to get kind of an even coating of the dressing on the salad. Not that that's not traditional, but it's one of those you very much don't want to pour this dressing directly on the salad, because it's so potent, it's almost overwhelming if you try it that way. Now, the other two things that this kind of has going on are that, so we've got that Dijon mustard and we've got the walnut tie-in, but it's also got this playback from wonderful fresh raspberries. Now, raspberries are kind of available year-round here rather than being a seasonal thing per se. But berries and raspberries, cranberries, blackberries, those kind of things, I often associate with a lot of holiday cuisine because we tie them in at that end of harvest, end of summer sort of thing. So if you still have them available, they're a great substitute or a great element to this particular salad. You can substitute other styles, and in fact, one of the things I really recommend is trying out cranberries with this that have been basically lightly blanched. You don't want them fully crunchy and raw, but you want them just a little bit soft. And then you let them cool down and dry out, and then you add them to the salad. It's a lot of fun. So anyway, this idea of sweet and you got sweet and smoky, you've got crunchy, and then more crunchy. So it's a very texture-laden salad. Plus you got that roasted kind of walnutty nut flavor that ties into the walnut oil. Now that was one of the items I had to go out and specifically buy, other than the duck. It wasn't necessarily easy to find. I mean, I have a very good grocery store in H-E-B Central Market, but it's not something I would imagine you're generally going to find at your local grocery store. You might, depends, but just be aware that's one oddball one that most people don't just have sitting on their shelves. It has a delightful little bitter sensation that kind of mirrors how a walnut tastes. So I used black walnuts for my example, but you can use either white or chestnut, white or what's the other style? There's another name. Hang on, I'll think of it for the particular breed of walnut. And that adds again, the crunch of that and the kind of bitterness is a brilliant counterpoint to the richness of the duck, and also it counterpoints the sweetness of the raspberries. So, as I said, I'm going to post up the full example of how to make this salad, kind of from top to bottom, plus some of my learned lessons within there over on Patreon. So I hope you guys look forward to seeing that and trying it out on your own. Now, the wine pairing for this was an interesting concept. I actually kind of made a prediction when I was looking over the recipe and going, oh, okay, this is what I want to serve with it. And then I was scrolling through this food and wine recipe at the very end, and funny thing, my wine pairing matched those pretty exactly. Although actually, they recommended a Bordeaux rosé with this. I actually preferred a Provençal style rosé because I was continuing the red fruit meets bitter thing, and Tavel, which you guys may know I'm a very big fan of, is a perfect combination to this wine. It's just weighty enough in the end of the rosé spectrum to provide enough body to stand up to that strong Dijon flavor and the duck. Plus, it has a kind of hint of bitterness in its own right, which ties in together throughout the salad. Again, that bitter option, that kind of thing is going through there. The other note that I had here just to share with you guys was that they recommended Boston lettuce was their particular brand, or sorry, the particular breed and style that they were going for. I wasn't able to find that. I chose a spring mix that had another, again, a radicchio / arugula thing going through it to give it a nice little sense of bitterness. Tying that one thread all the way through, kind of in and out, is something that makes a lot of fun wine and food pairings, because you have this one note to kind of call on that just keeps hitting the palate kind of over and over again and showing these similarities between your food and your wine. Okay. Anyhow, let's talk about this beautiful. Oh wait, no, hang on, I have something to share with you. I forgot. Why would I just tell you about this? And also, why don't I just show you? This was the end product, by the way. This is what we turned out with when this was a presentation for some guests. So you see a nice kind of crispy duck bacon there, smoked duck turned into duck bacon, and then the walnuts, raspberries, etc. And you can see that I said that spring mix rather than the Boston lettuce. I think also adds a nice kind of color variation to it. So nice stuff. Other than my little raspberry that I forgot to wipe off the corner of the plate there, an excellent picture of what we were looking at there. But then to kind of continue directly on, let's take a look next at, where's our label? We'll go one more to the label for today. Here is the 2021 Beaujolais Nouveau by Joseph Drouhin. Now this is a grocery store grab because I got it at my grocery store, actually at Central Market when I was shopping for this last show. So this is Beaujolais Nouveau. We're going to talk about the history here, but as far as just to jump ahead, fun value, $10 a bottle, first harvest wine, and an absolutely addictive, easy to drink light red that everybody should try. So let's talk a little bit about what Beaujolais Nouveau is and some of the things why it's awesome and the things to be wary of. So Beaujolais Nouveau, as I said, is a first harvest wine. The word Nouveau meaning new. It is a no Beaujolais. This is from the region basically just south of Burgundy. You have Beaujolais, and it is Gamay territory. So these are Gamay grapes making this wine. Gamay is already one of the lighter sides. It's basically kind of 1 degree more dark than its Pinot Noir cousin. Okay? In fact, they make Pinot Noir up in Burgundy, Gamay in the south, and Beaujolais. And it is an amazing wine with a lot of different quality levels, just like Pinot Noir. So this is the basic level Beaujolais that they make throughout the province, okay? And they make this Nouveau by using a special construction process. This is actually 2021 wine. This was on the vine back in October. I think as late as they harvest, usually in August, September. So not a couple months ago, this wine was still a grape. How do they do that? Well, they take the grapes off the harvest and they take them usually in what they call a whole cluster. They clip the clusters off, but they don't destem them. They throw them in that state into a big stainless steel drum. Actually, not a drum, it's a big stainless steel fermenter. And big stainless steel fermenter, throw all these grapes in by the ton, and then seal the whole thing up airtight. Okay. Well, notice that one step that's normally a part of the wine process, they don't crush the grapes. They throw them in there without a crush or without a destem. And the reason is because the grape weight on the top of that fermenter starts to crush and crack the grapes in the lower portion of it. The natural yeasts that are found on the skins of the grapes begins to ferment inside that tank all on its own. And by sealing it up airtight, it causes the gas pressure within that vessel to rise. So it basically, because remember when we have fermentation, we have the fermentation, the Enococcus eni bacteria produces carbon dioxide and ethanol. So that carbon dioxide normally just kind of bubbles away into the air, but now we've trapped it. And by trapping it, we increase the pressure in the vessel. By increasing the pressure in the vessel, it increases that kind of, causes those grapes to effectively kind of ferment inside their own skins. It's a very gentle pressing process at the very end. So this is called carbonic maceration. And so rather than it basically literally carbon chewing, right? And so that carbon, that higher CO2 ratio, just presses those grapes, gets them all fermented inside their skins, and at the end they do one basic press and one filtration, and then send it to bottle ready for market. No aging process involved. No wood ever gets involved in this process, so there's no oak. The tannin levels on this wine are very low compared to other wines because, one, it doesn't spend time in contact with crushed stems and skins, other than the natural carbonic maceration process. So it's very lightly touched with tannins. It means this wine, especially for new wine drinkers that are new to red wines or transitioning to try them out, this wine doesn't have any of that hearty grip that many red wines do. The tannins that do present themselves are very, very green, very light, and they're kind of bitter, but they just seem to pass within the fruit weight of this wine. This wine defines the concept of fruit forwardness. It really, really leads with flavors of cranberries, berries, and red fruit, and has some amazing fermentation notes in it. Because of the way it's fermented, it produces some very, what I would call, oddball flavors that are not found in many other wines. We get very tropical fruit flavors. Things like bananas and banana peels are often reported in various Beaujolais Nouveaux. I also occasionally get almost a bubblegum kind of note, like an artificial bubblegum flavor that comes across in the nose. Now, once it hits your palate, the wine is very driven by cranberry and red fruit flavors, maybe even some blackberry, but almost fresh blackberry. And it comes across very, very even on your palate. Like I said, none of that grip, and it just kind of goes away. It's got a very simple finish, very direct. This wine is, truly kind of a very basic / pure thing. It's very what's the word I'm looking for here? It's simple. It's that idea of austere. Okay. So anyway, wonderful wine, and that whole process means that the wines come out in the fall. Now, Georges Duboeuf, the king of Beaujolais, who passed away not too long ago, kind of created a marketing push for this wine in the U.S. While it's been a French wine tradition for some time, he really kind of started driving home the idea that we have a fall holiday that falls usually right after this wine comes out. Usually came out in early November. What they decided to do is delay/coordinate the release date of these wines to be the third Thursday of November, which happens to be 1 week before Thanksgiving, which is the fourth Thursday of November. So that third Thursday holiday has become a big deal and a big marketing push. There's no real, particular. The tradition isn't that old, from what I understand. At least the marketing portion of it to help Americans become aware and buy it has made it its own kind of hype thing. Now remember, that means that this wine it tends to be very popular and sell out very quickly. So if you're in the mood to buy some, you usually kind of have to jump on it pretty quick. Now, a couple things to be aware of, other than the marketing value of the wine. because of the way it's constructed and because it doesn't have a lot of tannin to it, it is not meant to age like at all. Meaning wine like this, Psalms vary on when they say you should drink it by, whether it's by the end of the year, by New Year's, or I usually say as far out as maybe Valentine's Day. But after that, you're really starting to push how long this wine is going to stay fresh. Okay, because it is a fruit-forward wine and has high acids but no tannins, it's not going to last too very long. Certainly not until its first birthday. Okay, I mean, I would say that you're going to put this on 4 months to 6 months tops, and I would err towards the side of 4, if it's available at all, depending on the production years and how much they produce. Sometimes it's sold out, but oftentimes you'll still see bottles clinging around occasionally that wine sellers are dusting off and putting out past the new year. Be very wary of looking at the year on this. So this is an absolute one to check your vintage dates. So how does this one taste in particular? There are a couple of different. Joseph Drouhin, this brand is the second most popular, or I would call it the third most popular that I've ever seen. Georges de Boeuf and de Beaune are the two ones that I see most commonly in big box stores and most grocery stores. I think they have better access. De Boeuf, for instance, used to own like a huge portion, something like I think 80% of the total Gamay in Beaujolais was in some way related to their corporation. Now, that's a number that's been very out of date by now, but the point is still they're kind of the elephant in the room. Drouhin, I have found this through HEB and their central market label, so hopefully you can find some of this yourself. Color-wise, you're going to see that this wine usually has a nice bright cranberry. It's a little bit darker than Pinot Noir, but certainly has a nice clear look to it. It doesn't have that full extraction, deep concentrated look. You can definitely see through it, and it has a nice garnet color, kind of borderline onto purple. Okay, on the nose, this one has that little peel of banana and almost a tropical kind of thing, combined with a very strong squeeze of either red currant or raspberry. This one has very much a red fruit nose to me, and perhaps a bit of sour cherry, but very bright, very open. And as I said, remember, there's nothing really in the realm of wood here because there's no wood involved. The other thing you might get is a tiny hint of minerality of stone, but definitely this is a reverse of the usual old world style. Very much got fruit first and a distant hint of terroir. Then on the palate, the little bit of grip is on the front of the mouth. It's immediately tackled by big sour raspberries, sour cherries and cranberry. There's almost nothing in the mid palate, so it's got very, very, very light weight. Doesn't cling to your palate at all. It's got acidity. This wine has a good degree of that preserved acidity because of its production process and because of when they harvest these grapes. Gamay, generally speaking, for a red wine is a good high acid red. This definitely exemplifies that. So the acid makes your mouth water, which makes it a wonderful food partner. And that, of course, being a wine that is designed for going with Thanksgiving, couldn't be better. So, cranberries on your table at Thanksgiving equals cranberries in your glass. The direct link is easy peasy. That being said, the acids in this, because we're doing a higher acid wine, your temperature of service should be a little bit lower on your red wine scale. This is one where you're almost at the high end of white wine service with this. I'm serving this, basically putting this in the refrigerator, pulling it out and letting it warm up is a better approach for this wine than trying to keep it at, say, 60 degrees. So this is definitely a 55 degree kind of wine, if not even 50. So this is that will help kind of express even more of its red fruit flavors, lower its bitterness just a little bit, and give you that wonderful, bright, fresh sensation of that mouth-watering acidity. So really, really fun stuff. And as I said, at $10 a bottle, talk about a great grocery store price. And remember how kind of wine pricing works. The reason it's so inexpensive is not just because it's inexpensive to produce. That's kind of a given. But also, when we say inexpensive to produce, it's because you don't have to hold on to this wine for any length of time. You don't have to go through the whole. You don't have to buy oak barrels to age it in, which of course adds up in cost. You don't have to store it anywhere, which adds on to cost. It's simply a matter of getting that fermentation done, bottling it, and going. And that's a great way to keep costs down and make it, of course, a reason to buy two of them for your holiday party instead of just one, and share ones with your friend. I mean, it's a great holiday gift thing. Bring one of these just because you're visiting somebody to say hi, and you will become a better human overall. So, all right. Well, I say. Oh, by the way, I didn't even see there. Mark and Betty are down in sunny, hot, and dry Southern California. Well, it has been sunny, cool, and dry here. We had a little bit of rain over the holiday, but only the one day, and the weather's been really beautiful. Everything from the highs in the upper 50s to today, I think it was something like 73 degrees up here. So it's been very mild, but beautifully fall weather here in North Texas. I can't complain even a little. Very pleased with where we are. So anyway, so like I said, Advent calendar's coming up. We will see. I'm working on the newsletter, pardon me, which I've been much remiss in getting done, as I noted, because the last copy came out in September. So needless to say, got to get everybody on there, and we'll be promoting a couple of things. Upcoming events include the following. On the 12th of December, we will be doing the Winter Wine Special down at the Reunion Tower. This will be our last show at Reunion Tower. So if you are a local and have not come to hang out and have been desirous to do so, now is your time to act. We're going to be switching venues to doing other things in the new year, so look for information on that. I'm excited to attempt to do some restaurant-based wine and food dinners. So keep your ears tuned for that. But last shot at the tower. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys join us to kind of say thank you to the tower for hosting us for an excellent year throughout 2021, and also to celebrate what wonderful holiday wines we have. Again, the theme will be very similar. Some of the wine styles you're going to see in the show here on YouTube and throughout the rest of the month. So we got that on the 12th. I have not secured a date for another free Zoom meeting. I'm waffling is the reason. I would love to get with you guys and share some wine. However, it is a busy season, and I'm trying to get booked up for holiday parties. So after this goes down, probably I will do it either by the end of the week. We'll decide whether there will be a free show on Thursday the 16th, or whether we'll do one on Thursday the 23rd, right before we begin the holiday. So it'll be a Thursday show again, because Fridays are so busy. But I think we'll probably do it on the 16th. So a couple of weeks from now, look for that. I'll post it up on Facebook. Again, free tickets. Join us for Zoom meetings and to enjoy some great wines for the holidays. Then I will be also sending out within the email, and also I'll be posting on Facebook, dates that are still available for booking your own holiday parties. If you guys would like to celebrate with a food and wine dinner with your favorite friends and your host, the WineShark, I would love to host you guys, and it would be a lot of fun to kind of experience some of these things in person. In other words, I won't just tell you about those wonderful menu items. I will construct them, prepare them, and serve them to you. So excellent way to celebrate your holidays with yours truly. So that's kind of all I've got for you guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful start to your holiday season. No matter where or what you are celebrating, always think of your friends and the way that wine becomes a part of your life, part of your celebratory process. And in that case, I hope you enjoy. Until next time, I've been your wine shark. Cheers. And now I'm going to have to finish this bottle because, well, as I said,